And joining me now is Republican Tom Price of Georgia. He's also a member of the Tea Party caucus. Congressman, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Jake. Good to be with you.
So, Congressman, while the numbers for the Tea Party have climbed over the last couple months, we look back at our Tea Party polling, and the last time the Tea Party had a higher favorable number than unfavorable was 2010. Even the numbers now show that they are more unfavorable than favorable, even with what might be a sympathy bump because of this IRS scandal. Why is the Tea Party so unpopular on a national scale?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that at all, Jake. I really don't. But I will tell you that the American people are remarkably concerned about what they see as an administration, an executive branch that is out of control and clearly has lost the trust of the American people.
Let's turn to the IRS. You questioned IRS Acting Commissioner Steve Miller on Friday. I want to play part of that.
Do you believe it is illegal for employees of the IRS to create lists to target individual groups and citizens in this country?
I think the Treasury Inspector General indicated that it might not be, but others will be able to tell that.
What do you believe?
I don't believe it is. I don't believe it should happen.
And that question was put to White House senior advisor over the weekend by this week's George Stephanopoulos on ABC. Mr. Stephanopoulos asked Dan Pfeiffer, does the president think it's illegal? Here's how Mr. Pfeiffer responded.
The law is irrelevant. The activity was outrageous and inexcusable, and it was stopped. It needs to be fixed so we ensure it never happens again.
You don't really mean the law is irrelevant, do you?
No, what I mean is that whether it's legal or illegal is not important to the fact that the conduct doesn't matter.
I don't want to defend a clumsy phrase, but Pfeiffer was saying the law is irrelevant, it's outrageous and shouldn't happen either way.
Well, what he's saying is that you ought not rob banks, but it's okay to go take money. Look, how can an administration say that the law is irrelevant? This is astounding stuff, Jake. I'm telling you.
Well, he was saying it was outrageous whether or not it's technically illegal. You believe it's technically illegal what they were doing?
I believe it's illegal. I think it's unconstitutional, which is where I was trying to take Mr. Miller in the hearing last week. But he stopped at illegal and said, oh, it's not illegal. Look, what we've got here is an IRS who's asked church groups what the content of their prayer is, asked book groups, book clubs, to send it to the IRS a list of books that they're reading, in fact, do a book report on these books. This is the Internal Revenue Service. One has to ask, well, what's the right answer to those questions? This is not where the IRS ought to be, which is why it's so very troubling that we now have Sarah Hall Ingram, who was running the tax-exempt division at that time, now put in charge of the implementation and the enforcement of the president's health care law. This is scary, scary stuff.
You've said this is just the beginning. What more information do you need at this point?
We need to start at the quote low level that the administration has identified. The employees in Cincinnati and elsewhere who were the ones charged with doing this. Talk to them, get them, see where those orders came from. We had one of those individuals over the weekend say, look, this comes from the very top. Now, they said so anonymously, so it's the responsibility of the oversight of the Congress to determine, well, how high does that top go?
Let me ask you one final question before you go, and that is you touched base right there about the idea that the woman who was in charge of this division at the IRS is now heading up the compliance office for Obamacare. You have legislation, Keep the IRS Off Your Health Care Act, that would prohibit the IRS from implementing or enforcing any provisions of Obamacare. There are over 40 provisions they would need to enforce. As you know, there is a big tax component of this, a fine for those who do not comply. Why should the public not just view this as another way Republicans are trying to repeal or water down Obamacare in a way that you were not able to do in 2009, 2010, when it became law?
Well, they shouldn't view it that way because what we have learned over the past week and what many suspected over the past couple of years is that the IRS has already overstepped its bounds. Not in small ways, in very, very big ways. And as a physician, I can tell you when you're talking about your health care, the health care of you and your family, the last entity that you want to see interposed between your doctor and your family is the Internal Revenue Service.
Republican Congressman Tom Price, thank you so much for coming today and
Thanks,
sharing
Jake.
your views.